العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I would like to welcome everybody to the first class of our speech class. And I hope, inshallah, we will have a very good, please come. Is there a room here? Yeah. There is room here, there is room over there, and one brother over there. Inshallah, we'll have a very good and enjoyable journey all together through this class. Before we begin, let me ask that we all introduce ourselves very briefly. Only our name, and what is it that you're trying to achieve in this class? What do you want to do? I mean, why did you participate in this class? So let's start from Sister Maryam. Your name and the purpose of you attending this class. Let's go real fast.
Okay. My name is Maryam al-Musawi. I hope to achieve from this class. I've done public speaking, but I want to be more confident in the way I speak, and I was thinking no better than learning from Sayyid, inshallah.
Thank you. Sister?
My name is Zainab Musa, and I took this class just because I know the brief general about our religion, but I just don't know in depth, so I feel like I just want to learn more.
Good.
Assalamu alaikum. My
Assalamu.
name is Zahra, and I'm taking this class to gain more knowledge and hopefully to learn how to speak better.
Good.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
My name is Fatima Al-Hakim. I just want to learn more about Islam and grow in the religion, inshallah.
Inshallah.
I'm Sayda Marashi, and I'd like to learn to be able to respond to any questions that are asked from other sect especially, and be confident about it.
Inshallah. There is one room there. There is one chair there. Please. Yes, Sister. Zainab. Assalamu alaikum.
And yeah, I just want to make or gain more confidence when I speak about religion.
Good.
My name is Baha, and I just want to gain more of the basics of Islam.
Good.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rusul. I'm taking this class because I
Rusul.
I think it'll be helpful to communicate properly with coworkers.
Assalamu alaikum.
I'm taking this class to become a better representative of my religion in case I have to talk to others. So I couldn't find a better teacher.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, brother.
My name is Haidar al-Basri. I attend Hawza before, and I just willing to continue my Islamic study.
Inshallah. Yes, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
My name is Muzaffar Lakhani. I want to learn more about deen and increase my knowledge.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
And I'm just here because you have knowledge and I'll take it.
Inshallah.
Assalamu
Alaikum
alaikum.
assalam.
Hadi,
Hadi?
yeah. And I just want to learn overall more about Islam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ali, and I would just like to learn more about my religion.
Good.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Jafar, and I'd just like to learn more about how to present myself in speaking about Islam, to know what I should not say, and how to speak about it in the right way, basically.
Inshallah.
To other people.
Inshallah. Brother Nabil.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Tamim Nabil. There's Islamic knowledge, and then there's the art of speaking about Islamic knowledge, and that's what I'm hoping to gain in this class.
Inshallah.
I'm Hussein Marashi, and I'd like to at least be able to have a good Islamic dialogue with the others, not just talking to Muslims, because that's the people that we get in contact with every day.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rabi'. I'm interested in learning how to.
I signed up for a couple classes with your son, inshallah, at the Hawza. So, inshallah, in the future, I could be a better leader about Islam, be a better pastor, a better leader.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is
Alaikum.
Muhammad Maki. And I just know I have a lot of room for improvement as far as my Arabic and my Islamic knowledge. And this was a great opportunity to start.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Adam Al-Araji. I want to learn. I've never really publicly speak to anybody, but I hope to learn about speaking to other people from whatever age they are, if they're kids or if they're the elderly. I want to reach their hearts and tell them about Islam and any problems we face in our society.
Inshallah. Yes, brother.
My name is Lauren Shinovar, legally named, but I use the name Hassan Al-Qori. I'm from South Korea. I'm a convert as of 8 years ago. What I'd like to do is be an influence to people in my birth country.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Qazwini. And inshallah, I hope with the help of this class to become a global speaker.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad and I want to become a better speaker.
Good. Sister Rima.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
I'm Rima and I would love to become a better speaker.
Inshallah. Okay, so now we have an idea about almost everybody's intention. Basically, everyone wants to be a good speaker, a good public speaker, and that is the purpose of this class, to prepare you to be a good speaker, inshallah, in public domain. So, having said this, I need to point out a few important issues. Let me first tell you about our class. Our class will be divided into two parts. 20 to 30%, that's the first part. 70 to 80%, the second part. The first part, it teaches you techniques with which you can advance your ability to be a public speaker. So we will tell you what are the most essentials for a public speaker. What do you need to do in order to become a public speaker? We are going to list a host of issues that we're going to discuss with you on how I can obtain those qualities to advance my ability to be a public speaker. So, for example, being eloquent, being charismatic, having self-confidence, being articulate, being passionate. Those are all qualities that will help us to be a better speaker. We're going to talk about them in length, inshallah. The second part, which may start maybe in a month or so, we're going to go to the practical steps, meaning we will pick you to come here and speak. You will have the assignment to speak for 5 to 7 minutes. We will give you a subject to speak about. You have to be well prepared before. You come here, you present your speech, and then me, along with all other students, will be grading you. After you're done, we will focus on points of strength in your speech and points of weakness, meaning we're going to dissect your speech by pointing to where you were at your best, where were the most powerful points in your speech located, and where you were weak. So basically, this will help you to enhance your ability to better prepare for the next time you're assigned to speak. I would guess if we have, how many students we have? Let's say we have 30 students, 30, 35. Each one of you will have to speak once every month. So I would say each one would speak till by the end of this course in May, you will have to present at least 4 to 5 times. Hopefully, by the end of this semester, by May, if you promise me, you will attend every single class. That's number one. Number two, if you take notes, I'm not using any particular curriculum. I'm going to recommend some readings for you, but we're not using any particular curriculum that you refer to. You have to rely heavily on the lecture, on the presentation I give. Therefore, you have to take notes. Every class I give, you have to take notes and make sure that you observe the lecture, the lesson well, so it can help you with advancing your skills to be a better speaker. If you attend every single class between now, which is one class every Tuesday, 1 hour, 6 to 7. If you attend every class, and if you take notes, and if you take the exam, we're going to have exam, not right now, rather afterward by assigning you to come and speak. That is going to be your exam. I'm not going to use any other form of exam as far as, for example, regular exams, written exams, or quizzes. No need for that. Your main exam will be when I ask you, when I assign you to come and speak. That will be your exam. So if you take that exam and you attend all those classes, I assure you, by the end of this course in May, you will be a good speaker, inshallah. As far as reading goes, I recommend you buy those 2 books. You can find them in Amazon or any major bookstore. One, it is called The Quick and Easy Way to Effective Speaking by Dale Carnegie. It's one of the most popular books on public speaking. I do recommend this. And the other book is TED Talks by Chris Anderson. So I do recommend, it's not mandatory, but I do recommend you buy those 2 books and you read. And I'm going to give you an assignment before I finish the class today, reading from those 2 books. Now, traditionally, when we speak about the significance of speaking and speech and being able to speak, you know, authors will go in length by talking about how historically important it was for leaders, for prophets, for social reformers to speak. I don't need to go through all of that. I just want to mention 2 things. One, and by the way, our focus here is not only on public speaking. We are focusing on public speaking on what area? Islam. Islam. How to make you a good speaker on Islamic topics. In other words, how to become an Islamic speaker or preacher. That's the scope of our class. Our scope is not to make you a business speaker or a politician. No. Our focus here is to make you able to give an Islamic speech. If you are one day invited to a college, to a university, to a church, or to your class at your high school, and you were asked to speak a few minutes about Islam, you can do that. That's the whole purpose. To prepare you to be a good Islamic speaker. Hopefully in the future, you can become a preacher for Islam, where you can speak about Islam in various places. During Ramadan, Ashura, certain events, fundraising dinners, etc., etc. You will be someone who can master the art of speaking, because there is a huge void today in the Muslim community for public speakers. We need more public speakers who speak English, who can deliver a good presentation to audiences, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, across the United States. So that is the main goal of this course, this class, to prepare you to be an effective public speaker on Islam. Now, I don't need to go through the historic perspective on how speakers transformed the world or transformed history. But all I need to say is, all the prophets of Allah, all messengers of Allah, they were speakers, public speakers. So for example, Ibrahim was a speaker. Moses was a speaker. Jesus, most of his sermons in the Bible were indicative of his speaking ability, where he spoke to his audience, to his people. Our own holy prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a powerful speaker. In fact, the prophet has a famous saying in which he says, "Inna min al-bayani la sihra." Often, bayan, speaking, can turn into magic. Meaning, you can mesmerize people with your speech. If you're well-established, skillful, talented speaker, you can mesmerize people with your speech. Inna min al-bayani la sihra. Sometimes through your speech you can mesmerize people. The Prophet himself was a great speaker. Imam Ali alayhi salam was a great speaker. The best indication of how powerful speaker he was is what? Nahj al-Balagha, the path of eloquence. In fact, Path of Eloquence, which you all know, is a book authored by Imam Ali alayhi salam. It wasn't essays that the Imam wrote. They were all speeches he gave over the span of 5 years. His caliphship, if you will, in Kufa. So it was compiled by an author, Sharif al-Radi, a 4th century Hijri century Muslim scholar, who compiled all his sermons and he made them into a book known as Path of Eloquence or Nahj al-Balagha. Imam Ali was a powerful speaker, a moving speaker. And when you listen to his speeches, honestly, as old as they are, they were delivered 14 centuries ago, they sound so fresh, so moving. Our Imams alayhim as-salam, Al-Imam Zayn al-Abidin, through one speech, one short speech, he was able to cause almost riots and revolution against Yazid. The Imam was only 23-year-old when he was brought to the chamber of Yazid, and Yazid managed to basically brainwash people against Ahlul Bayt. And the Imam alayhi salam requested that he would go to the podium and say a few words. And Yazid refused. And when people, underestimating the Imam alayhi salam, objected to Yazid, "Why don't you allow him to speak? وَمَا قَدْرُ مَا يُحْسِنْ هَذَا الْغُلَامِ." How much he can say? How intimidated you look? Why you're so afraid of him? How much he can pose a threat to you? Yazid knew the ability of the Imam on powerful speaking and his ability to mobilize people. He says, no, you don't know him. I know him. إِنَّهُ مِنْ أَهْلِ بَيْتٍ زُقُّ الْعِلْمَ زَقَّ. He hails from a family that was fed with knowledge just as they were fed by their mothers when they were kids or infants, were they nursed and fed by their parents. They were also fed knowledge. And then he adds, إنه لو صعد هذا المنبر لا ينزل إلا بفضيحتي وفضيحة آل أبي سفيان. If he is allowed to go to the podium and say a few words, he's going to expose me. He's going to cause a big dilemma for me. But then, after the pressure was mounting on Yazid, he gave in, he allowed the Imam to speak, and within a few minutes, the Imam alayhi salam changed the entire atmosphere from an anti-Ahlul Bayt atmosphere to a completely sympathetic atmosphere. When the Imam went to the podium, everybody in that chamber, maybe a couple of thousands of people were listening. They were all anti-Ahlul Bayt. They all hated the Imam. In a few minutes only, the Imam managed to flip, to change those people into completely sympathetic people, that when he came down, everybody was shedding tears. He made them burst into tears. How? And how did he manage to do that? Through his, speaking ability. He was a powerful speaker. So the list goes on and on and on. Even in our history, in the American history, we have powerful speakers. Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King. In fact, every president of the United States, every president cannot become a president unless he is a public speaker. Because you know that during the presidential campaign, the president or the presidential nominee would make lots of speeches during his campaign. So if he is not capable of speaking, he cannot be a powerful speaker. Regardless whether he lies or not, regardless whether he exaggerates or not, regardless whether he gives false promises or not, we have to admit that presidents are great speakers. And they move people by their speeches and by their ability to influence people. Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So a president, before becoming president, he is what? He is speaker. He is a public speaker. And by utilizing his talent of speaking, he can manage to mobilize people to vote for him or to vote against him. So in both cases, it is him who would mobilize people in either direction. So, having said this, let's go now and talk about the most important quality that should exist in every speaker. What are they? Number one. What is the most important quality that every speaker should have? What is that? Self, and forgive me if I goof with the spelling sometime. Self-confidence is number one quality. Any speaker should have self-confidence. Now, remember, I'm going to go through lists of qualities required for a successful public speaker. Some of those qualities are naturally born with you. Some of them, you acquire them. But even those qualities that are naturally born with you, they are not that manifested unless you practice them, you acquire them. Meaning, no person is born as public speaker. You learn how to speak. However, there are people who have more incentive, better inclinations to gain and to acquire the talent of public speaking, and some are slower. But basically, all people have those abilities to acquire the talent of being a public speaker. No one can say, you know what? I am damned. I cannot be a good speaker. That's not true. That's not true at all. If you want to be a good public speaker, you can. Being public speaker is not something that you are born with, meaning you come to this world as a powerful public speaker. There is nothing. You may have the inclinations. You may have some elements that enables you to be a public speaker faster than other people. But there is no person can claim, I came to this world and I am just equipped with this talent of being a public speaker. On the contrary, no one can say, I cannot be a good speaker. I tried, but it didn't work. No, there is no such thing. If any, you have not worked enough on yourself to be a good speaker. You need to work harder. and you need to practice more. That's what differentiates a powerful speaker with someone who's not a powerful speaker. Powerful speakers would practice more. Exactly, it works exactly the way it works at the gym. When you go to the gymnasium, you see some people with big muscles. Unfortunately, I don't have big muscles. Why? Because I cannot have big muscles? No. And the guy who has big muscles, he was born with these muscles? No. He worked to have those muscles. Unfortunately, I did not work to have those muscles. Someone wanted to have big muscles. The other guy did not want. And remember, there's a big difference between wishing something and what? And wanting something. I wish to have big muscles, but in fact, I didn't want to. Meaning, if you want something, you work for it. You go for it. You exert your utmost effort for it. Just to wish something, that's not going to work. Just to wish to be a powerful speaker is not going to make much change. What is going to make much change is what? If you want to be a powerful speaker. If you want to be a powerful speaker, you would work toward that goal. By keeping that goal in your mind, you will work for it and you will achieve it eventually. But if I just wish to be a good speaker, but I don't work hard enough to be a good speaker, I'm not going to be a powerful speaker. Just as if I wish to have big muscles and I do not work toward having big muscles, eventually I'm not going to have big muscles. So basically, before going deep into self-confidence, I should say that 99% of people struggle with this issue, with self-confidence. In fact, there are statistics that the most fearful cause that Americans fear before death itself is what? Is public speaking. It is called stage fright or stage phobia. Many people, many intelligent people. Once I was told by a surgeon, eye surgeon, who used to attend my Friday sermon. He says, Sayyid, I wonder how do you do those speeches? And I told him, I wonder how do you do your surgery on the eyes? Because it's a mastery. Once you acquire the mastery, it will be easy for you. An eye surgeon can be great at his job, which is fixing, your eyes. But if he had not worked on how to become a powerful speaker, he's not going to be a powerful speaker. He's going to be a powerful surgeon, eye surgeon, but he's not going to be a powerful public speaker. So, number one factor is self-confidence. You should have self-confidence. Without having self-confidence, you will not be able to be a powerful speaker. That's before anything else. Before acquiring enough knowledge and material. Before acquiring any articulation, habits, or talent. Before reading so many books, resources, and journals. Before any other factors we're going to go and list soon, the most important factor is what? Self-confidence. To be very confident of yourself that I can do it. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. I can give a public speaking. I can be a good speaker. So, number one is self-confidence. And this is what, trust me, most people lack. This is what most people lack. You might find someone, as I said, he's intelligent. He could be a powerful, efficient doctor who have performed hundreds of surgeries. He is in his late 50s or 60s, But if you ask him to come to the podium and say a few words on the stage, that could be a death sentence to him. He can't handle it because he is so terrified with the notion of speaking on the stage. So number one is self-confidence. Now, how to acquire self-confidence? How to break this great wall of China, which is called self-confidence? What does it take to get you out of your place and come to the podium where there are 1,000, sometimes 1,500, sometimes 2,000 people listening? What does it take to do that? Now we know self-confidence is much needed quality to be an effective speaker. But what does it take to acquire self-confidence? I'm sorry? I'm sorry? Exactly. Number one, practice. Practice and a practice and a practice and a practice and a practice. You see the circus? When someone is playing with the alligator or playing with the lion or playing with a tiger, how do they do these things? By practice. How do they train a tiger to play with the circus guy without, preying upon him? Practice. It takes practice. How a man who has huge muscles made it to that point? Through practice. Practice. How a powerful pilot who flies, now there are airplanes that can carry up to 800 people. There is an airplane called A380. You know what A stands for? Anybody? Airbus. Airbus 380. You know how many passengers it can carry? 800 passengers. But now with the configuration between business class, first class, and economy, it carries 550. 550, there are villages in the United States that has 300 people, 400 people. More than a village with their food, with their luggage, with their load, with the water, with the fuel, is flying in the air by someone, one person. We call pilot. How a pilot can fly an A380 airplane for 15 hours without an incident? You and I cannot do that. How? By practice. They don't give him that airplane from day one. They let him practice on small Cessna flight, 2 passengers. Then once he spent maybe 500 hours of flying, then they will give him a bigger one. Then they will give him a bigger one, 737. Then after how many hours? I read 5,000 hours. 5,000 hours of flying time. He is given this airplane, 380. Otherwise, they don't give him. No matter how smart you are, they don't give you this airplane to fly from day one. It takes practice and a practice and a practice and a practice. So, the number one factor that allows you to speak is to practice. Now, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam has a wonderful tip for all of us that transcends time and geography. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib says, I am going to write it in Arabic and then I will translate into English. What does it say? Anybody? فقع فيه. The Imam alayhi salam says, if you fear something, just do it. If you fear something, just do it. That's how you break the fear barrier, by doing what you fear. If I fear from flying, many people, by the way, fear flying. Anybody in you, among you, who fear flying with the airplane? If you fear from flying, then fly. That's the only way that makes you, basically break the fear by flying, actually flying. If you fear the stage, then go to the stage. Just do it. That's how you break the barrier, by doing something. Yes?
Yeah, I just wanted a little comment. There's actually a therapy for people who have phobias, and that's literally what you tell them to do. You just expose them to that fear.
Exactly. Exactly. In psychology, just our sister is saying, if you have certain phobias, some people fear, there are certain phobias. People, claustrophobia when they go to a place where, filled with people. Or there is another phobia for distance, when someone takes that x-ray and CT scan, sometimes you feel you're choked, even though you're not choked because, oxygen is given to you. But it's a phobia. In order for you to fight this phobia, they tell you, just do it. Just do it. Practice it. That helps you to break the phobia and break the fear. That's number one. So you need to keep in mind, in order for you to acquire self-confidence, you have to practice. Now you may say, how am I going to practice? I am terrified of practicing. How do I do? Just do it. So let me share my own experience. The first time I spoke, I gave a public speaking. I was, any clue how old I was?
20?
Huh? No, I wasn't 20.
15.
No. I was 23. When I did my first public speaking, I was 23. And I was asked to speak. So, of course, I couldn't tell those who invited me that I never spoke. I was embarrassed to tell them that. So I pretended that I'm a master of speaking. So I came. It was a Husayniyya in Iran. I remember it was the birth of one of our Imams, alayhimus salam, and I was supposed to speak about the birth of that Imam. I forgot which Imam, Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, or one of the Imams. So I went to the podium. Trust me, I had no experience. Now, I had memorized, we're going to come to that, how to prepare for your lecture. We're going to talk about that. Some people go and memorize their speech from point A to point Z. That's a mistake. Don't do that. Don't do that. Maybe you do it once or twice, but not every time. That's not a good strategy on how you become a confident speaker, by memorizing your speech. I'm going to come to that. But in that particular case, I wanted to look perfect. I wanted to look as if I'm someone who had been speaking for so many years. I had to memorize my speech. My speech was for 15 minutes. So I went and I spoke. I stood at the podium. So thank first to Allah, and second to the podium that was in the front of me, covering me and covering my legs. My legs were trembling, literally was trembling. But people could not see that because I was well covered behind the podium. And alhamdulillah, there were no students on the side to watch me. Everybody was in front of me. And I was covered by the podium up to my chest. And trust me, my leg, do you see it? Do you see it right now? Just like this. My legs were trembling. But alhamdulillah, nobody noticed that. Alhamdulillah, nobody noticed that. And I gave my speech, and nobody at all realized that was my first speech. Trust me. Everybody came and congratulated you. What a beautiful speech, great speech. The only one realized I was trembling was myself. So, but it may take you to tremble the first time. That's fine. as long as nobody's watching you. That's fine. You might be sweating. That's fine. You might be taking sips of water several times in your short speech, 5 minutes. That's fine. You might be not look so relaxed. That's fine. You may look nervous. That's fine. The most important thing is you just need to do it. No matter what. No matter what, you just need to do it. And keep in mind, the more you practice, the less anxiety you will have. The more you speak, the more you go to the podium, to the stage and deliver a speech, the less nervous you will be. So it's an equation. More speaking, less anxiety. Less speaking, more anxiety. They go hand in hand. So, in order to achieve self-confidence, number one tip, I need to just do it. إذا خفت من شيء فقع فيه. If you feel something, just do it. Number two, keep practicing. Keep practicing. Once and twice and 3 and 4 times. Number 4, rehearse before your friends, before your family members. And if there is nobody at all, rehearse before the mirror. Just prepare your speech and rehearse before your relatives, friends, people you trust, 5, 6 people. Just deliver your speech before them. This will definitely have less anxiety for you. You will be less anxious when you deliver a speech before your siblings, your wife, your brother, versus 5,000 people. So just rehearse, because you know in your mind that when I am rehearsing before these people, even if I goof, it's not a big deal. It's a rehearsal. It's not real practice. It is not the main speech you're giving. So practice before friends, privately, and have them point out to you where you have goofed. Whether as far as making verbal mistakes. By the way, you will make so many verbal mistakes. Why? Because a speaker is focused completely on his delivery and the content. Sometimes your brain slips and you say things that you did not intend because you were completely focused on something different. So even if you make verbal mistakes, that's fine. Rehearse once and twice. If you have an important speech to give, it may take you up to 5 times to rehearse before you go to the graduation ceremony and give your speech. That's fine. Rehearse. Keep rehearsing. Keep asking your friends on what are the most, major gaffes you have done, and let them help you with that. I don't advise you to write your speech and read it from paper. I never advise you to do that. It is okay to write your speech and memorize points, major points you want to deliver. But to rely completely on piece of paper, this is not considered public speaking. This is considered what? Reading New York Times. It's not a big deal. Anybody can read. That's why you see people, the audience is completely detached when someone is reading from paper. Because he is not performing an art. Speaking is an art. When you read from your paper, it is as if you're reading a newspaper. I can read this, I can Google this, I can go to the newspaper, read it, or I can find it in a book. I don't need to listen to you. Why should I listen to you? So when we talk about giving a speech, we're not talking about reading from paper. I have seen in my life some eloquent people, some highly knowledgeable people, well-educated people, but yet they were not able to give a speech from their heart. They were reading. I remember a few years ago, we invited a famous lady. You can Google her now, and you will see that some of the speeches she gave has maybe millions. Just Google her name now. Leslie Hazelton. Leslie Hazelton, she is a Jewish speaker. I'm sorry, she's a Jewish author who wrote some nice books on Islam. After the Prophet, the book called After the Prophet, the First Muslim. Very nice books. We invited her to speak at the Islamic Center on Ford Road. And I was really surprised to find out that she was reading from paper. Because when you read her books, she's so eloquent. I was surprised that she was reading from paper. But then I realized there is a huge difference between being a powerful writer and a powerful speaker. If you're a powerful writer, that doesn't mean you're a powerful speaker. You may see people write very well. They have such wonderful, powerful writing skills and ability. But that doesn't make them good speakers. So when we talk about being a self-confident speaker, we're not talking about having a piece of paper in your hand where you lay out all your speech. No. It is okay to have notes. I'm going, inshallah, to mention that. It is okay. It's completely okay to have notes. Once I talk about the delivery style, we're going to talk about that. But it is not okay for you to be an effective speaker to have all your speech written in 10, 15 pages and you read. You read. You know what you will be called then? Any clue?
Parrot.
Huh?
Parrot.
Huh?
Parrot.
Parrot? No, not necessarily a parrot. You will be called a boring speaker. No matter how good the content of your speech, you will be labeled as a boring speaker if you read from paper. Because being a powerful speaker, one major element is that you give a speech, you do not read. You do not become a reader. You give a speech from your heart. And that's an art by itself. In order to be an effective and moving speaker, avoid writing your entire speech on a piece of paper. You can take notes, that's fine. And we're going to talk about that. But do not rely on papers to write your speech. You have to have your speech in your mind, in your brain, and then you speak from heart. So, and by the way, reading from a piece of paper will make you what? Less confident. That means if you take my papers, I'm unable to finish my thought. I am unable to finish my job, which is delivering my speech. If someone takes your note, your papers, you will not be able. So what makes you a speaker is the paper. It's not your ability. We're not talking about piece of paper. Anybody can read. So, self-confidence. Number one, if you fear something, do it. Just do it. Number two, keep practicing. Once and twice and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. You will make many mistakes. But the more you practice, you will have less mistakes. I remember in year 1999, 1993, the year I came to the US. A week after I arrived, I went to 1992, I came in December. But I did not go to school till 1993 to learn English. I was listening to my teacher. The first thing she says, in order for you, we were, all in ESL class, we were all learning English. She said, the first thing you need to keep in mind, in order to learn English, in order to become fluent in English, you have to make, literally, you have to make 1 million mistakes. And the more you speak, the less mistake you make. In other words, there is a journey of 1 million mistakes. You have to make those mistakes. So the more mistakes you make, the further you get. So if I already committed 500,000 mistakes, how many I have to finish to become fluent in English? Another 500. But if I had not made no mistakes so far, what does that mean? I'm not fluent in English. That means I have not practiced. The more you practice, the more mistakes you will make, but in the sense of accumulation, but in one speech you will make less mistakes. So, to imagine yourself to be a powerful speaker without making those mistakes, that's delusion. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. In another word, in order for you to become a better speaker, eventually you will have to make many mistakes. Those mistakes should not bar you from pursuing your goal if you're really adamant about it. If you're serious about becoming a powerful speaker, those mistakes should not deter you. Just keep making mistakes, and the more mistakes you make, the closer you get to your goal, where you will have less mistakes. By the way, there is no speaker who can claim my speech was perfect, it has zero mistake. No speaker. No matter how powerful I could be, in the end there could be some flaws. But flaws vary from one person to another, from one speech to another. If I do a powerful speech with 3 mistakes, I'm a prophet then. I am someone very, very powerful in speaking. So no one will deliver a speech without mistake completely. You eventually, even when you become a powerful speaker, you will commit few mistakes, some gaffes, some missteps. You misquote something. You mention the wrong number. Once you are citing certain statistics, you definitely will make a few mistakes. But these mistakes are forgiven, because that's part of our nature as a human beings. We will make mistakes. There is no perfect person. So, do we have time? No, we don't. We have 4 more minutes. So, my dear brothers and sisters, I'm coming to the end of this class. Again, these 2 books are recommended for those who came late. Those 2 books are recommended to buy. It's not mandatory. I recommend for next week you read from page 15 all the way to to 45. Page 15 to 45. 30 pages recommended reading. You begin at page 15. That the name of the book is The Quick and Easy Way to Effective Speaking by Dale Carnegie. And I recommend you read from page 15 through page 45. Order this book. And the other book I recommend that you buy is this one, TED Talks by Chris Anderson. Next week we will be going to cover other issues related to the other 2 qualities, being dynamic and passionate, and being eloquent. Self-confidence being dynamic, and number 3, being eloquent. Those are 3 major qualities needed in any speaker, being religious speaker, politician, or business, or anything. Self-confidence, having self-confidence, being dynamic and passionate, and number 3, being eloquent and articulate. Next week we will be talking about quality 2 and quality 3. The following week we are going to talk about tips, 10 tips for being a powerful speaker. And then after that we are going to start the practical lessons. We will pick a few students each week to give 5 to 7 minutes speech. And we all, the class, including the instructor, will grade you. We will critique your speech, and then we will grade you. After you're done, we will give ourselves 10 to 15 minutes to basically dissect your speech and grade you. How good you were at certain things, how bad you were at certain things, and then you can have an overall idea on how you performed. Inshallah, we will see you next week, Tuesday. Those who are planning to attend Salah will be held in 3 minutes in the masjid here. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.